Good morning, gents. Welcome to Week 4 Religion. Today we'll be moving into an introduction to Judaism. So I encourage you to take notes where you see that notepad symbol. You can pause where you need to take those notes. We'll get started. So if you look at that 6-point star there, it is a symbol that's often associated with Judaism, and it is called the Star of David. Now, David is an important figure in the Tanakh, and he was one of Israel's greatest kings. This is the same David who fought Goliath and is also a descendant of Jesus. So, we're at a Catholic school, so why should we be studying Judaism? Well, Jesus was a Jew, as were most of his followers. They practiced Jewish rituals as a way of living out their faith and showing their devotion to God. So therefore, the first Christians were Jews, and in this way, Christianity stemmed from the religion of Judaism. So Christians and Jews have a shared history, thus shared beliefs. So the Jewish population today, this is a pie chart of the world Jewish population from 2019, and we can see that Israel has the highest population, which makes sense, with 6,558,100 people. And then we move across to the second highest, which would be in the United States, with 5,700,000 people. Now, if we move down, there are 19 countries listed, plus other, but Australia is the 9th highest. And so we have 113,400 Jewish people in Australia today. So the Israelites. Now, Judaism began with a group of people known as the Israelites, and they're also often referred to as the Hebrews. They were Hebrew-speaking people who lived in the ancient Near East. So if you look at those two maps, the ancient Near East is what today we would call the Middle East. So we're looking at this entire area, but predominantly this area here. Okay, so we have countries like Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, Egypt. That's essentially where they would have come from. So the Tanakh is the sacred text of Judaism and holds within it central beliefs of all Jews. It is also contained in the Christian Bible, but we Christians, we call it the Old Testament. Now, the Old Testament is a term used in contrast to the New Testament, and Jewish people do not say the Old Testament, they will call it the Tanakh. So the Torah. Now, within the Tanakh is the Torah, and this is what Christians refer to as the Pentateuch, and it is made up of 5 books, and those 5 books are Genesis, which includes the creation story, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. The Torah is the basis of Jewish law and tradition. So some of their laws are one about the Sabbath, where they cannot work on the Sabbath day. It also includes the 10 Commandments, as well as many of the food laws that Jews still abide by today. Now, just in regards to some of those food laws, you may have heard the word kosher. And kosher, there are 3 basic principles of kosher food. The first one is that there are certain animals that Jews cannot eat, one of them being pig. Secondly, the animals that they can eat need to be slaughtered in a certain way. And the third is that you cannot mix milk and meat together. So that would mean that you couldn't have a hamburger with a meat patty and cheese on it, essentially. Let's look into the central beliefs of Judaism. Now, the first one is that it is a monotheistic religion. So monotheism is the belief in one God, mono meaning one, and that's the most basic belief in Judaism. Other monotheistic religions include Christianity and Islam. Judaism is, though, the oldest monotheistic religion that still exists today. Secondly, Jews believe that they are the chosen people. Now, this doesn't mean that they are any more special than anyone else or that God loved them more. It just means that God chose the Jewish people for the responsibility of sharing the covenant, a promise, and passing on special messages of this to the rest of the world. So in regards to the covenant, Judaism is founded on a covenant, so that promise between God and the Israelites, and God promised to protect the Israelites if they obeyed his laws and were faithful to him. Of course, the Jews need to abide by the 10 Commandments, and those 10 Commandments are listed here. So firstly, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make idols for yourself in the form of anything. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. And you shall not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. Lastly, in regards to the central beliefs, I wanted to talk about the Messiah. Now, Jewish people believe that God will send a Messiah, and this is different to the Christian belief because Christians believe that this Messiah has already been sent, and that is in the person of Jesus. Jews, they do acknowledge Jesus and they think that he is a very special messenger of God, but they don't regard him as the Messiah as such. Ultimately, this is what caused a divide between Jews and Christians in the first century. Jews, they didn't accept Jesus as the Messiah because he did not fit the prophecy outlined in the Old Testament or the Tanakh. He was not a political ruler and did not bring about world peace. So the Jews believed that when the Messiah does arrive, he will be a political ruler who will bring about world peace and everybody will recognize and worship the one God. So now it brings us to the activity that you'll need to do now. You have this doc in your drive. Your teacher has put this in your drive for you, and there are 9 questions. Can you please answer them in full sentences? And when you log back in, your teacher and you will go through them. Thank you, boys.